We covered a lot of key features with templates up to this point. There are two other key features left here, which I definitely also want to cover. The first one is template inheritance. Here we have two templates. That is not a lot, but already we have some code duplication. The general structure is of course the same, the general document structure, and that will pretty much always be the case. All your HTML documents always have the same core structure: the doc type, the HTML wrapper, a head section, the body section, and it's then just the content in the body and also some content in the head which might differ. But you might wanna define this core skeleton once, maybe also including some navigation or some footer which is always shared, and then just inject the parts which are different in your different templates into that core structure, that core template which you might want to define once. And that is exactly the idea behind template inheritance. For that, we could create a new folder in our project folder, so in the root project folder next to our two subfolders here, and we could name that folder templates. Now you don't have to create it here, but since this might be a template that is shared across all apps, you might not want to create your core structure in an app-specific template folder, but really on the entire project level. Now, again, this is up to you, not something you have to do, but definitely something you can consider doing. Now in here, we might have our base HTML file, or maybe a layout HTML. That name is up to you. I'll go with base. And in here, we then want to create that core structure, which I'll quickly copy from my index.html file. So I'll copy that in here. So this is the core structure, but of course the title should be dynamic and the body should also be dynamic, let's say. To make sure that that's the case, we can use another tag. We can use the block tag. For example, here in place of the title. Again, we have single curly braces with a percentage sign, and then the keyword block. This is another built-in tag Django supports in templates. This allows us to define a block which will later be able to inject content into. Now you can give this block any name of your choice, and you must give it a name. Here I'll use page title. But again, that's up to you. You also need to define an ending tag here, end block. Now there's nothing in between here. Whoops, I don't need that. It should look like this. There's nothing in between here, but you could actually set a default title, like my challenges, which would be used as a fallback if no content is passed in from the templates which will inherit from this template. And we're not doing that yet, so this might still be a bit abstract, but we'll see it in a second. Now you can have more than one block, and I will need more than one block. Here I also want to have a block in my body. So here I'll add block and name this content. Again, these names are up to you. And here I'll also add end block thereafter, and we could have some fallback content in between, or also leave that empty if you want to. And we can of course then also put this all into one line. So now we have this base HTML file with two blocks. Now we want to extend that file from our templates. So for example, from the index.html file. We do that by going to the top of that HTML file. And that's important. You need to do this at the top. And there we add another tag, which is the extends tag. And here we now point at the template which we want to extend. I will go with base HTML here. Now you need to make sure that Django is able to find that template. For this, you can also specify relative paths here. For example, here we could go up one level with .. and this is relative from this index.html file. So by going up one level, we would be in the templates folder. We could go up one level more and we would be in the challenges app folder, and we could go up one level more, and we would be in the project folder, and then we could dive into templates, so into this templates folder here, and then access base HTML. But that's very cumbersome, and we always need to adjust this if we move this index.html file around or if we move the base HTML file around. Therefore, I rather specify an absolute template name or path here, and I just want to make sure that Django picks up this path. And therefore, we can go to the settings.py file in our project subfolder again, and there in dirs, I'll again add base dir templates, so that I make sure that Django also checks the templates folder in my overall project folder for templates, so that it dives into this templates folder here as well. And then if I have a base HTML file here and I reference a base HTML file here, this connection will be made by Django. Now, what does extends actually do though? Well, it does what the name kind of implies. It bases this template on the extended template. So that means that we can get rid of all that dummy structure here, also of the title tags here, which we already have in our base template. There I already have that base structure. I already have the title tags. But I want to get rid of that, also of the closing head and the opening body. And now instead, I just want to tell Django where to inject this content which is template specific, so which is specific for this index.html file. And we do that with help of that block feature, that block tag, which I showed you before. We have two blocks in our base template, and that is this page title block and the content block. And we now tell Django to inject this title here into the title block by again using the block tag here. But now here, we again use the same name as we do in our base template, so page title here. And we also need a starting and an ending tag here to let Django know where the content that should be injected into the base template starts and ends. But with that, we now make sure that all challenges will be injected into the base template in the page title block, which happens to be inside of these title tags. That's where we have this block. And we do the same with the content block for the body tags. There, we want to wrap the unordered list now with block content, because I'm using content as a name in base HTML. And again, we want to mark where this block begins and ends, so we also need end block here. And we can indent, but we don't have to. Now I'll also move this all down a bit. And if I now save all of that, if I go back to my challenges list, this looks like before, but it's now based on that base template. And I can prove that it's based on that if I quickly insert the h1 tag here, where I say all challenges in my base HTML file. So in that template from which my other templates inherit. If I do that and reload, you see all challenges here, which proves that I'm inheriting from that. Now, I will remove that again, because of course, I don't want to say that on every template I have in the entire app. I just wanted to add this temporarily to prove that inheritance works. Now we can also inherit with the challenge HTML file. And speaking of a challenge, this is again a good challenge and a good practice for you. So try inheriting from the base template with this challenge template on your own. In the next lecture, we're going to implement it together.